Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
Good morning, everybody. The 29th Thursday. Pierre Clock, always first, man. Or we should give you a special award for that. I wish YouTube allowed me to do those sorts of things, you know? Anyways, let's go to the chart, huh? Yesterday, FOMC day. E-mini here. Things pretty good after the FOMC. So I would say, you know, it was a little bit mixed. So initially it was good and didn't really take off until Powell started talking. But then he also said that the markets were frothy. Yes, and they didn't like that. They sold off on it. But then in the end, they moved up. So, you know, I was kind of favoring the long, but, you know, it didn't work out for me in the E-mini at least. But I made money elsewhere, so it was okay. It was kind of all practice for me on that stuff, though. Let me come over to the treasuries. The treasuries, off of that news, took a pretty good move up, right? But that has all been retraced in the overnight session. Uzi says frothy like my nuts. Oh, geez, that's okay. Okay, moving on. The oil is doing well as always. Gold and silver. So gold and silver took a pretty good jump after the FOMC meeting, but here again, they are retracing quite a bit. Copper just is, you know, everybody wants copper. Copper. So sexy, copper. And the dollar taking a huge plunge off of the FOMC meeting. Even though they didn't really say anything new, but hey, you know what? It's just kind of like there's always that chance they say something and they wait, and now it's you're free to just go down again. Okay, cool. A little bit of a retracement here again. So some of these retracements seem a little extreme to me, don't you think? Don't you think? Just a little bit extreme. I don't know. Could be wrong. Coming in today, though, we do get news today, though, right? Finally. Let me fix a couple things here. Oh, why did it move all the way over there? The Jigsaw Economic Releases tab doesn't always save its position correctly. So we get jobless claims. Initial jobless claims, we're looking for a reading of 549,000, which would be pretty low. Would be pretty low for what we've been seeing recently. We also get GDP Price Index. And core PCE prices, which is an important number for us in the treasuries. I'm looking for price index, 2.5 PCE prices, 2.4, and a growth rate of 6.1. So we got 3 minutes until that comes. Uzi says ZB is eyeing the weekly low value targets at 13. Some naked point of controls across multiple sessions at 56.16. So I should probably keep my eye on it over here. There's gonna be a lot of things for me to watch here. Should make sure I got. So off of the news, I'm want to focus more on my treasury trades over here. And then after that goes, then we can kind of take a look at the E-mini and see if there's a good swing for us. Alligator was responding to me in the interest rates channel. Too many people think the same about what other people think. Beauty contest. I doubt these specs plus hedges are profitable over the long haul. Well, the issue is they basically have to hedge themselves. Like, so the issue is you're managing a bond portfolio, right? and bonds are getting crushed. And, after an FOMC meeting like that, there's a pretty solid probability that they go down. I mean, it's not like it's more likely than not that they go down. It's just that if it does go down, it's going to be so wild, like you have to be hedged against it. So I think that's why they sell it all. This time they sold it all into the FOMC. Okay, so waiting on the numbers here. I can see them absorbing it like they want it low. Let's make sure we get everything reset here. Okay. 553 versus, a lot of people had different expectations, but it's within the range of the expectations. So I'm noticing just a tad a bit of steepening here. And the flow is a little bit too one way though. Okay. Nope. Oh, that didn't work out. Did not work out. All came back. Now let's see here. Like all of those numbers were in line, so it's actually a little curious that they moved up. Okay. So this is very interesting here, actually. It looks like things aren't moving a ton, but there actually seems to be a really big battle going on in the curve right now. Yeah, I'm not quite sure which way this is turning out, but now it's flattening. It's flattening, the 5 years coming back up. They are going to break back up to the upside. And they're not really chomping at it. Oh, I never turned on the text-to-speech. That would help. That would help. They're just kind of oscillating around there. They're still not quite sure which one they want to do, I think. And see, it looks like the robots don't know what to do. Well, it looks to me like the robots in the tenure don't know what to do. Nassim Zalev says, get your enemies to complain about you as frequently as possible. People haven't complained about me very much lately, unfortunately. I'm old news, apparently. According to nobody, has there been? I don't know. I guess I don't really pay attention. Maybe people are talking about me, and I just don't know about it. When is Joe gonna start mumbling? Is he supposed to talk today? According to the baby. There you go. I sure read a lot about his little joint address to Congress. Is that what it was called? Yeah, it's a joint address to Congress. But didn't look like there was too much of anything new in there policy-wise. He said the attack on the Capitol was the largest attack on our democracy since the Civil War, which is ridiculous. Okay, listen, presidents have been assassinated. There was a group of people in 1954 that literally got into the House chambers and shot 5 people. Okay, so don't think that statement of his is accurate and unnecessarily inflammatory, but doesn't matter. Doesn't matter, I don't think. Well, maybe it matters. Maybe it pisses Republicans off. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I'm just still triggered by the whole, like, okay, the economy is, we're recovering in the economy and all of this, and we have just taken on a record level of debt, and So that would be the perfect time to start spending more on services and stuff, right? History is to be it really is going to be like, it looks to me like when my grandchildren are reading in the history books about this event, that the history book is going to say that it was an armed rebellion. Which I think is absolutely ridiculous. I keep seeing these people saying, oh, they wanted to lynch the vice president and they were going to kill him and all of this stuff. It's like, no, like one person died and it was a protester that was shot unnecessarily by a police officer, by a security officer. And that was it. And there was a couple of other people that died at the protest, but they all died of natural causes. And I don't, they didn't kill anybody. They didn't come anywhere close to being able to kill anybody. Like, didn't 5 people die? Well, so a number of people died, but not as a direct cause of it. Like, so like when I say people died, yeah, there you go. Uzi knows. 5 people died. 1 was shot. 3 died of too much excitement, and a police officer died of natural causes days after. Basically, that officer had health problems anyways. So there was this whole thing about these protesters sprayed him with bear spray or something, and that's why he ended up dying in the end. And they actually arrested people and are prosecuting them about it right now. But like, apparently their whole case is like falling apart in court. Like, they can't even prove that the guys being accused actually even sprayed the guy. It's like that. Yeah, and they ran for 2 months that he was hit with a fire extinguisher. Yeah, and that never happened. Yeah, they absolutely lied. You're right, Uzi. No, you're totally right. But there's this bigger, like, so here's how do you fight against this larger narrative? Like, they're saying this was an armed rebellion and they wanted to kill the vice president. They wanted to kill Vice President Pence and all of this. And that, you know, certain senators and so forth were really close and they could have been lynched and things like that. But it was like, okay, but why didn't that happen? Like honestly, 1 protester was shot. Okay, one in one area was shot. And that was the end of it? Was that why it ended? Was because 1 protester was shot and so everybody backed off? Nah, I think the reality is that these people were never intended to do anything like kill someone. That they were there to protest and they were going to make a scene so that their voices were heard, but that an armed rebellion, what would be the word? A coup, it was not. All you can do is point it out and be called crazy. Yeah. Well, it seems to me like a lot of people don't want to hear that it wasn't a coup. But what are you going to do? How do you... I don't know how you go through a logical explanation of proving that the thing they believe is not true, because it's like, it didn't happen. You know what I mean? Like, people entered into the Capitol. Yes, a lot of them claimed that they were let in. Okay. So how do you prove that their intent was to lynch the vice president or any, like, you have to be a mind reader to do that. To prove it either way, frankly. You know what I mean? So the whole thing is, but for the vice president to come in and then say that was like the worst attack since the Civil War is basically, here's why it upsets me. Is that the president, instead of turning around and saying, okay, I'm president, I have an agenda, and I think that my agenda can sustain me, and we can get everybody on board with my agenda because I think that it's a great agenda that everybody can support, and, you know, I'm going to become a unifying president that everybody likes because I have good ideas and that sort of a thing. That's not what he's doing, is it? He's continuing to push politics of division. The Republicans are evil and they want to destroy our democracy and we have to stop them. Right? This is just not the message that should be pushed right now. That's why it upsets me. You don't need to be a mind reader, just need Don Lemon to say it and millions will listen and believe. Wow. The thing is I don't watch cable news, so I don't know what it is that everybody watches that makes them think that, what they think. Kind of sure it looks like the ZB wants to continue up there, but that the other two are just kind of like the ZN is definitely stuck in a range. There are also headline junkies, and I think everybody is, dude. Like, honestly, think about it. Even on just a subject like politics, okay? Like, if politics is your thing, okay? There is so much information out there to consume about politics that is just not practical for you to consume every piece of information. And when it comes to a thing like the riots, it's not necessarily practical for you to learn every little thing about it. Like, I'm impressed that you are able to remember off of the tip of a hat, 3 people, 5 people died, 1 was shot, 3 too much of excitement, and 1 the police officer that died of natural causes. It's like, but that's the thing that you care about, right? So if you're a Democrat and you're not really so concerned about the media lying about the thing, you're more concerned about Donald Trump is going to try and do a coup to stay in office, because that's really what they believed, right? That he would do like a military coup to try and stay in office, or a revolution or something like that, right? Which was never true, right? Maybe that's a better place to focus on. The Democrats were afraid that Donald Trump would try and do an organized coup. He didn't. He thought that it was constitutional for the vice president to call the election, to uncertify the election results. And you know what? I kind of get their point. Like, I think Pence was right. To be frank, I think that Pence was right to turn it down, because it just wouldn't be right for one individual to decertify the whole election result. And then what would have happened after that? It would have been this whole thing of like, okay, would it have led to them actually doing like real recounts over there? And would they have ended up doing a real recount? And I'm not so sure that a real recount would really actually turn out in the way that people think. But let's see the way that this Arizona thing goes, right? That's one that I don't hear anything about anywhere except for the Donald, which is kind of funny because it seems like a big deal to me. But, so I think that ultimately Pence was right. Okay. But that's what he was trying to do it through a process, and when Pence denied it, he had his speech. He didn't say in his speech, go and overthrow the government. He said, make your voices heard peacefully. Like, this speech itself proves the claim wrong. He directly told them to just go and protest peacefully. And the breach happened, before his speech was over too, is another thing, but they'll deny reality. It sounds like it was a peaceful protest. It was not exactly what I saw on TV. Well, I was not a peaceful protest. Don't get me wrong. It was not peaceful per se. Okay, like in my book, damaging government property in the Capitol building is not peaceful. I'm just saying that there was never any risk that the government was going to be overthrown. That was not these people's intent. Because if that was their intent, then they would have acted in accordance with actually trying to overthrow the government. It would have been overwhelming guards pushing through anyways. A person gets shot, you keep going. Instead, it was like, oh, no, like you shot us. Like, why would you do that? We were just here, you know. Whereas if I'm in a revolution. If I'm trying to lead a revolution, a protester being shot is that, I mean, that's how things fell apart in the Soviet Union, right? Like, they're worshiping pharmacy. Really? Okay. I haven't seen anything of that. Zero Hedge pointing out the solid GDP print. By the way, the GDP Price Index was 4.1 versus expected 2.5. The other numbers were pretty much in line. So kind of curious that the treasuries are up, but you know, whatever. We got 1 and 1. I did this dumb thing again where I was like, oh, I got this one, I can get this one too, and then it'll come back and get this one. And I shouldn't do that. That's just one at a time. You focus one at a time. Certainly not the left. Now that I agree with. That is the thing that gets me the most. Okay, Bill Maher is the left that I grew up with. That guy is a lefty. I remember disliking that guy. I don't remember what it was that he said that made me dislike him so much, but I remember disliking that guy. He is the left. Matt Taibbi, he is the left. That guy is a lefty. That is what I think of when I think of the left. The people that are driving the conversation in the Democrat Party today is not Bill Maher and Matt Taibbi, man. Bill Maher and Matt Taibbi are a little concerned about what their party is doing right now. But I wonder if it's a thing, if it's only a thing now. Like, if Donald Trump had come out and said, I'm not going to run again, would Biden not be talking about it? Do you think it's because Donald Trump has been suggesting that he might run again? I personally don't think that he should, but he's been talking like it. He's like, I'm going to do rallies again. And then after 2022, then I might announce that I'm going to run. I don't know if that would be the right thing. Because first of all, like if I was speaking to Donald Trump right now, like he who was here in the room, I would be like, here's the case that I would try and make to him. The greater chance Trump runs, the greater chance Democrats will reform the system to consolidate into a one-party state. Well, here's because the obvious concern is Republicans will lose if Donald Trump runs again. That there's too much resistance again that he can't win. I don't think that would be an argument that would be very convincing to Donald Trump himself, would it? Oh, we did move up a little bit higher. That's cool. So I think that the way that I would try and present it to him would be like, number one, you're very, very old, and maybe it's not appropriate that somebody of your age is president. But second of all, you can have so much more significant of an impact doing other things. You know, if Donald Trump runs again and he loses, then that is the end of the America First movement. Like, straight up, that's the end. And if he lost, it would be pretty difficult on the down ballot candidates. And we would be right back into the situation that we are in now, except for that maybe they might actually have like an actual majority, and then they could really just pass anything that they wanted, right? And yeah, they could pass HB1, federalized elections. Yeah, that would be bad. That would be really bad for the Republican Party. No doubt about it. What's the tick value for shitcoin? I think that they go by cents over there, right? So, just kind of crazy. It's kind of funny now that they're talking about micro Bitcoin. I'm seeing a lot of people like talking about it and like considering it, and I'm looking over at it like I still wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole. It'd have to be like micros for it to be the risk, because otherwise you're gonna have to. I mean, sure, the margin is probably going to be like reasonable, but you're gonna need a lot for a contract to trade that. Bad, it'll be the end. Yeah. So on the other hand, if Donald Trump focuses on creating a social media network and a media empire, he would have so much more influence if he focused on finding good candidates to further the Make America Great Again, well, sorry, the America First is what I call it. The America First movement, and get senators and people in the House that are on his side, and smart people, because quite frankly, most of the people that have kind of really been on his side have been a little crazy. The ones that actually get there. Okay, so if they put more effort into fielding good candidates instead, that would be a big deal. And that would be way more meaningful than if Donald Trump ran again. And I don't think that it's the case that the Republicans are all so terrible that whoever you would get instead of Donald Trump would be a terrible candidate. There's a number of candidates that could still be America First that I think would be solid candidates. You know, like Ron DeSantis, of course, is like the front runner right now, right? If he ran, and of course, we should always be really careful about trying to call it too early, okay? Because maybe he is just terrible at a federal election, okay? Sometimes you get these guys like that. That's what happened with, who was it? The governor in Michigan or whoever it was, and a lot of people were waiting for him to come into the race. He was trying to come in late, because what will happen sometimes is you come in late and then you suck all of the air out of the room, and if you're a good candidate, then it's like a big boost. But he ended up being a poor candidate, right? But as it appears right now, if Ron DeSantis won, I think that he would win the election hands down, even if it wasn't against Joe Biden. Joe Biden is implying that he's going to run again, although I thought that he wasn't supposed to. I don't know. I thought he was supposed to be a one-term guy no matter what. I don't know. So still a little bit of flattening in the treasuries, by the way. I spent my whole life being nothing hated by Christians so I think that what happens is a lot of people misrepresent hate. Like, listen, just because somebody disagrees with your lifestyle choices doesn't necessarily mean hate. Here's what my recommendation to you, Keller. Here's what I think your problem is. And when you make this change, and I guarantee you, someday you will do it. Every man at some point in their life, they make this transition. And this is the transition. You stop giving fucks. You don't care what other people think about you, and you just do what you want to do. Every man does it. Some of us, we don't get there until we're in our 30s. Some people on the left, they don't get there until they're like really, really old, right? It's basically, it comes to this point where it's like you realize that what you gain in social acceptance from other people is not worth it. It's really like think about it. Like, you think about this stream. Like, why am I This comes up all the time. People say, don't talk about politics. Maybe it hurts the stream. I don't know. Why do I do it? Because I want to. I like talking about it. And what is it I would get from YouTube? Could have, 1,000 followers. Is that really worth it to me? To versus changing who I am and what I want to say and what I believe in and all of that sort of thing? No. And everybody does it. Like I said, there's always that old guy that, is at the old folks home, and he's not afraid of, saying things to the young girls and letting them know that he thinks they're pretty and thinks, like they say that like old men can be like really brazen and stuff like that. You know why? It's because they don't give fucks anymore. Right? So yeah, Republicans, if you're, you have certain lifestyle choices, you're homosexual, especially if you're trans right now. Holy cow, man. Yeah, they're not going to approve of it. Who cares? What matters? What really matters in the end? What policies they implement, right? Okay, now if Republicans implemented a policy that said it's illegal to be gay, then I would understand, right? And I always felt, here a problem. It kind of bothers me, honestly, but it's like done and it's over with, and so what you gonna do? But the rights that you get from being married, right? Like if your partner is in the hospital, only family can visit. So there was instances where because they were gay, they were being denied those hospital rights and stuff like that. Those things shouldn't be attached to being married, right? So, they solved it for gay couples, but for anybody else that's in a situation that they want to visit, but they're not direct family, you're still like out in the cold, right? So Republicans, they kind of would talk to that sort of thing and say, well, this is what we should do. But it was like they never proposed a law or anything, right? So that was dumb. Missed opportunity there. Okay. But, it's like, what law are they going to make? What law are they going to make? And when you think about Republicans, here's the thing that is, quite frankly, silly to say that Republicans are extremists, because when it comes down to what laws and so forth that Republicans put in, like if Republicans had complete control over the government, like seriously, think about it. If Republicans had complete control over the government, they had a 60% majority in the Senate, they had a majority in the House, and they owned the presidency, what laws would the Republicans put in place? They're conservative. Their whole thing is to like not really change things necessarily unless they have like really good reasons for it. They would reduce taxes. They would probably reduce government programs and stuff. But like that would be it. Okay. And now you think about what would happen if Democrats got in power. Okay. What would happen if the Democrats right now had a 60% majority in the Senate? Okay. They would push through everything, and we would be a one-party state for the rest of time, and we would become a communist nation. They would completely change the entire structure of America if they were allowed to, right? So I don't see how anybody can say Republicans are the extremists, because when it comes down to actual legislative priorities, Democrats are the ones that are proposing extreme things. You know what I mean? Ace Incorporated says you still stream. Okay. I stream. I will always stream. Never gonna stop me. Never. Well, I guess YouTube could ban me for saying something stupid. I guess it's not outside of the realm of possibility. I'm not gonna say that I'm always say the smartest things. I'm sure that I've made mistakes before. Yeah. Oh, Color says either way, I'm bouncing for now with I'd say. Wow. Probably you didn't hear that whole rant. The Democrat policies that are being proposed, like, especially as he was saying, federalizing elections, it's not constitutional for starters. That law that they're proposing, it's not constitutional. The way that you elect things is supposed to be chosen by the state. Senate. Like, it's there in the Constitution. But then, yeah, like mail-in ballots and all of this stuff, this is not good. It's not good. You should have to go to the ballot box, man. You have to go to the ballot box, and there should be exceptions for extraordinary circumstances. But like I'm on vacation shouldn't be a good reason, by the way. It should be like, I'm in the military, right? Okay, that's a good reason. You can do a mail-in ballot. There shouldn't be very many of them. There should be really heavy verification and everything over that. Everybody else should have to go to the ballot, because that's the only way that you can physically verify things, right? Is I can see where the ballots were done. I can verify. First of all, you have to verify the person is voting is actually the person voting, and they're not voting multiple times and things like that. So that's why, like, I do think that there should be ID check, right? But then it has to go to the physical ballot box, and then there is a strict chain of custody. So this whole thing about like bringing ballots to the counting center after the deadline and things like that, no, absolutely not. No, it should be, you have the ballot box, there's a strict chain of custody, there's a person that is charged with taking the ballot box to where it is counted. You can track and audit where it was, when it got there, everything like that, so that you know that the ballots that were counted were all valid ballots, right? If I go to a Republican convention,
block cell.
Holy crap, what the fuck? Oh, mama. Oh, mama. I should stop yapping. What the fetch? That was crazy. And the equities are very unhappy about it. That's insane. There was good volume on the move too. Look at that. You can't even catch a spot. You know, like maybe we get lucky. I don't know. Let's watch it. I'm going to shut up for a second. Let's watch it for a second. By the way, copper hits 10,000 in London is I'm seeing coming across the squawks. I wonder if that's related. And I'm seeing the Japanese yen just cratering as this happens too. Yeah, Fernando's got it. It looks like a rock falling. So I see the move in the 6J in particular. All of the metals are moving. Gold and silver moving down as the interest rates increase, and copper taking a big jump up. So that there might be a correlation with copper that I'm not as familiar with. Chewy Red, I got a bagel. You're talking about the dollar there. Well, the dollar is actually rising here, strangely enough. So I am a little unsure where the dollar is rising from. Oh, well, no, it's rising because the 6J taking a hit, yeah. Very interesting. That move flushed a lot of longer work. Sure it did. Yeah, it sure did. Well, especially when they were moving up and everything. So it's like a real rug pull, right? We're kind of to the point where it's pretty difficult for me to try and just take it as she goes, you know? Trying to think about where my eyes were because I'm like, it just, that happens so quickly, man. Wow. In that case, I think I would rather buy the 5-year either. I'm wondering if I want to do this more, that if I should enable placing orders for all three. It'd probably be easier to do it in the ZB, for instance. Sometimes correlations look a bit out, and maybe just traders trying to find something that they can trade. No, I think this is an informed move. I think it's like copper is considered a bellwether of the economy. I think that there's concern coming in about inflation. He's Incorporated says you're the most consistent streamer I've seen. Last I saw was a year ago, though. So how's the trading done? It's been up and down. I've had some periods that have been really, really good. So I don't know. I want to eat a little bit of food, but I kind of have a little spill about risk to share with you today. Momentum works good on Slim. Oh, you have one of those ribbon indicators? Those are fun. I didn't really find much edge from it, but they are cool. They look cool. And it's not so much getting overconfident about a winning streak. So I think the issue is that a lot of the edge is in taking on risk and managing the risk, which basically means that you're defined by the tails, right? Which would be okay. Like, you can get the tails more often than not. But if you're being defined by tails, then, one mistake on a tail can be devastating, right? For a retail trader. So I think that's kind of where I've been is like things are going really, really well. I've been mostly trading sim, to be honest with you. But every once in a while I'll come across the tail and I'm unhappy with how I dealt with it. And so I'm like, that's why I'm like, oh, okay, well, maybe we should wait. Are you Ace or Trades Reloaded? No, he's another guy. I remember him coming in and we're like, are you Ace? And he's like, no, I'm somebody else. I'm probably not the most consistent streamer ever, but hey, what you gonna do? We've had periods in the past year where the stream has been super popular, and we've had periods where it's been like not so popular. It happens. It oscillates. I miss him too, HF. Don't worry. I'm sure someday he'll come back. Can't. You miss him. He'll miss us too much. So sooner or later, he's going to come back. So people taking extra risks because we never go down by the dip until it don't dip like a regular. Yeah. Is it worth? This is another. You're bringing up another great point. Let me finish this bagel and then I'll explain to you what I'm talking about. Okay. So here's what I'm getting at. Okay. There are different kinds of strategies. All right. I contend that the best kind of strategy is being an informed trader. You know something that not everybody knows that has a very high probability of moving the market in a certain direction. And you know that the rest of the market hasn't completely gotten the message or understand what's going on yet. You can take that trade and you can not only have a high win rate, but you can get a high risk reward ratio as well. This is the optimal solution. Okay. Now there's other strategies. For instance, you can do a market making strategy. To do a market making strategy, you kind of have to be able to get a good spot in the queue. So it's not really practical for retail traders to do anymore. You can do arbitrage type trades, which is what I'm kind of trying to do here. Just identify small temporary inefficiencies in the market and try and exploit it for a quick tick. But that can be very very difficult. So an arbitrage strategy like that is probably the hardest kind of strategy starting out. But then once you get it, that's going to be one of the most reliable and longest lasting edges that you can get, right? Informed trading, well, you have to be informed and you can't be informed all the time, right? You're not always going to have a piece of information that really tells you what's going to happen, right? So if you're a retail trader, what to do? Well, so then you come into risk premium. And risk premium is like the opposite of arbitrage, really. Risk premium is the easiest strategy to get into in the short term, but it's the hardest to be successful at in the long term. And when I say risk premium, and of course, some people might have different definitions, so don't kill me if you read some textbook that says that the definition of it is something different. So I'm just saying these are my definitions. Let's not let words get in the way of communication. These are what I define things as. Risk premium is basically a strategy that relies on being willing to take on more risk than other participants. And that's where your edge comes from, right? Being willing to take on more risk than other people is an edge, essentially. Okay, and the reason it's the easiest edge to get into is that all you got to do is be willing to set your stop to be really long, right? So like the most basic kind of a risk premium strategy would be I come in, I say I want to get 1 tick, and like if we're going to be really extreme about it, I'll set my stop to be like 4 ticks. So I'll let it go 4 ticks against me before I give up and, don't take the 1 tick, right? Okay, that would be like risk premium, okay? There's no probability involved, okay? Like you come into it, you can go and do the back test and everything, but the reality is that if it was equal risk reward, the probability of you winning would not be over 50%, right? That's why you have to take the skewed risk reward, okay? Well, this is the simplest form of risk premium. What I am realizing now is that a lot of traders manage out a risk premium strategy in different forms, okay? So one way of doing it would be, say I take a trade and I have an equal risk reward of like 4, but then it goes 2 or 3 ticks against me, and so I add another contract on. And I have a maximum amount that I'm willing to take on, but hopefully, if it's going against me, I can add a contract and then, what is the word? Average out, right? Bill says, so 100 risk for 1 tick is bad, but they get that 99% of the time. Yeah, exactly. Right. Averaging out, it will actually work for you most of the time, but then, it'll go long and you'll get into this period where it doesn't work and you lose so much, right? Or the one where you're risking 100 for 1 tick, yeah, it works 99% of the time, but that one time that it doesn't work, or if it doesn't work a couple of times in a row, you're ruined, right? So what is the issue with a risk premium strategy? With a risk premium strategy, the tails define you. The tails completely define you, right? If you come into that situation and it's a tail and you get the tail right, then you're a hero. And if you get the tail wrong, you're broke. That's what happens to these kinds of strategies. Now, here's the thing, is all of the things that we just talked about are strategies doing things that I think most of us realize are not very smart, right? Taking like really skewed risk reward like that, not very smart. Trying to average out things like that, that's not very smart either, okay? But there are ways to do this that are smart. For instance, you're in a trade, it's going well, you add a contract. Yeah? Or you have a trade, you have a favorable risk reward, but you're trading multiple contracts, so you take some of the contracts off and then let the rest of the contracts ride, right? So when you actually factor it all out, it's like if I take 5 contracts in here, I take a lot of them off over here. In order for my winner to be equal to what my loser would be if all of those stopped out, you actually need it to go quite a bit further, right? But what you're doing essentially is, because you're taking these little profits here and there, it allows you to take on more risk, right? So it's a smarter way of doing it because you're taking the risk incrementally. You earn the risk, and then you take the risk off so that you can take on more price risk. It's very smart, right? Does that make sense how that works? Yeah? Those are two smart ways of managing the risk premium, okay? But the issue is still that if you were to go and look at the signals that the majority of these systems use, and you were to put it out to an equal risk reward, they would not come out to be greater than 50%. They would probably be close to what random is, okay? And so you ever heard people, a lot of these big traders, they say, like, in the end, the thing that really matters is managing risk because that's the only thing that you really, truly have control over? Well, yes, because if you have an edge that does not actually predictive, I use the term a predictive edge, that is, if it was equal risk reward, it would be greater than 50%, or, then really all you can do is manage the risk, right? So what I am realizing now is that there are a lot of strategies out there that we know about as retail traders, and that retail traders are taught and encouraged to do. Like, these kind of swings, add to your winners, or, use multiple contracts and manage the multiple contracts and catch long winners and stuff, that are in reality risk premium strategies and are prone to the same kinds of issues that if you were just taking a really skewed risk reward that you get. Then that is that you get fat tails, and not even just fat tails, but long tails. So my understanding is that, a fat tail is like one that's, like we're talking about range, that, everything is like a 416 tick range over here, but then you have this one bar that's like 200 bars, and that completely messes up the standard deviation and everything else of that system. Okay. But a long tail is just that the number of times that it goes outside of the Gaussian distribution is actually quite high. Okay, there's long tails. So that's why I just say the tails. So I'm saying the tails. The whole thing is managing the tails, right? So if you have a way to come in and that it is the tail, or something about the way that you manage the trade is just very favorable on the tail, then you can do well with those kinds of strategies. And the majority of these guys that I'm looking at that, I've seen people hold up as good traders or profitable traders. When I actually look down into it, it appears to me that what their true skill has been is being able to manage the risk. And so when there is a tail, they're on the right side of the tail. And if they're on the wrong side of the tail, they know, and they manage it, and they get out early instead of riding the thing the whole way. Because otherwise what happens is you're trading off the distribution, and you say, okay, well, it shouldn't be able to go any further, and you fade it and it doesn't work, and you fade it and it doesn't work, right? Like you get the the tail will screw you over and over and over and over and over again. And it's about, even with these scalp strategies, you can get these losing streaks that just are like, make no statistical sense. And it's because your strategy is still prone to a certain kind of a tail risk, right? You live by the tails, you die by the tails. And so I think that the reason why many retail traders fail with these kinds of strategies is because they don't realize that the real linchpin of the strategy is dealing with the tail, especially since how do you deal with the tail? How do you know that you're in a tail? Well, you've got to know that there's something unusual going on. Like what we're getting on right here in the treasuries is a tail. No question about it, right? That thing came down so fast and literally out of nowhere, like no reason for it to, I can't find any kind of news. I have no clue why it moved the way that it did. It could be a somebody putting on a big trade, expecting some inflation. I don't know. But to Vlad's point, he was saying people taking extra risks because we never go down, buy the dip until it don't dip like a regular dip. So what is happening now is that we are having assets are moving so strongly that to really keep up, if you don't really actually have a predictive informational edge, then you have to take on a ton of risk to keep up with it. And so when it doesn't work, when you do get the tails, they're really bad. Yeah. And that's, I think, what we've kind of noticed, right? Is like every time that the market is actually having a down day, the tape looks like it's the end of the world. Because everybody has essentially moved over to trying to trade the tail. Yeah, does that make sense? And I guess my whole thing has been, I'm not so sure that I want to be exposed to those tails anymore. Right? Because like sometimes it does really work out for me, but sometimes it doesn't. And if you're really trying to make a living off of it, or you just really want to be consistent and you don't have a huge account, dealing with the tails is just too big of a hassle. So if you're not going to deal with the tail, then what do? You have to have an informational edge, right? which means I need to know based off of news or a correlation that it's likely to move in a certain direction because of reasons, right? And that would presuppose a strategy that if you had equal risk reward, that you should be able to get a higher than, 50% win rate. Significantly higher than 50%. So here on this kind of like doing this one ticker, it does look like we can get 70%, right? So that's a real informational edge. If we can get good at it and be consistent with it, which I'm not so sure about. You can drive your car at 150 miles an hour, but when the tire pops on the highway, you won't get to your destination as fast as planned. Yeah. Well, I was having a conversation with somebody. What was it that they were saying? Mm-hmm. Must have been somebody else. Yeah, maybe the phrase will come back to me again. I don't remember what it was about or anything. So it's still kind of getting this skew, like it's trying to steepen. The E-mini, a pretty bumpy start. But going through that whole conversation, it just makes me think like I should learn more about the fat tail sort of stuff, because the question in my mind is then like, are there better ways to manage fat tails? Fat tails or long tails? That one kind of looks to me like somebody just putting it on there at 20.5 because they want to squeeze it, right? Well, maybe a lot of this down move will retrace, because I'm not sure if everybody is sure or on board with why it happens. Okay, News Squawk tweeting here now. Inflationary impulse seen across major assets this morning in New York after commodities rally and solid data in corporate commentary. The latest lug lower in treasuries and EGBs hasn't been tied to one specific reason, although has coincided with headlines noting copper prices rising above USD 10K. Isn't it so funny when I'm like, I don't know what's happening, but I do notice this and I notice this and this. And then when you come back and the News Squawk says exactly the same thing, and I'm like, well, are they listening to me or am I just that good? Huh? Or am I just that bad? Maybe if we're seeing the same thing, and that means that my edge isn't that great because it's things that everybody sees. I don't know. Anyways, alongside the broader strength in metals and commodities, IFR recently noted that real money accounts in the U.S. had seen selling cash fives out to bonds and long-end futures. Taking a broader view, we have seen lots and lots of inflation talk from corporates this morning and Tuesday evening, citing concerns around bottlenecks and expected price hikes. We also just had a decent U.S. advanced Q1 GDP print, although the core PCE gauge was less than expected, slightly offsetting the solid headline, with market reaction more muted at the time. Shortly before that, we had solid German CPI print. However, adding some pressure out of the bond complex. And while inflation is in vogue, corporates have been talking up the growth component too, with the industrial behemoth Caterpillar talking about solid demand outpacing its supply, while McDonald's has been talking up sustained consumer demand despite a fading of the boost from stimulus checks. The reopening narrative out of Europe is gaining traction as the latest reports out of France note that shops and other venues to begin opening on May 10th. HF says you're a good man. Thank you. Cheerleader, temper tantrum, sparks, SCOTUS, free speech debate. Oh, I forgot about that. Did they? I think that was just they had the court case. I don't think that anything's been decided on that one. So on this pullback, by the way, it hasn't been spreading quite the same way, has it? Well, I guess the 5-year decided to take a step up there. So if we are seeing an inflationary spark across the curve here, the way that equities react to it could be difficult to predict, right? Because some companies are going to be very harmed by it and some will be helped by it. Generally speaking, when we've had inflationary fears in the past, stocks haven't done well. But those were also like stagflation, which might not be what we get here. They are kind of at the spot where maybe I might try and buy the dip, but I'm not liking the way the volume looks, and my eyes have kind of been more over here. That's retracing pretty significantly, so we're getting back to kind of somewhat of a balance, like the stop out is over at least. Things move pretty fast on that Apple. Well, it sounded like their earnings and everything were good. It's curious to me. Most of the really big names, Apple, Amazon, Google, all just amazing, great earnings results. But then a lot of other people have had really terrible ones. California identifies 20% of signatures not matching in the Newsom recall petitions, yet magically more than 99% of signatures matched during the November election for mail-in ballots. Yes. Not surprised. Gretchen Whitmer announcing plan to tie lifting restrictions to vaccination numbers. Okay, so a lot of people have been paying attention to that because I think there's some concern that the vaccination numbers that they want aren't achievable. Let me know when the dollar breaks 89. We're a ways away from that. Large-scale study finds strong connection between COVID and strokes, particularly in younger patients. What? By Hebrew University of Jerusalem. Okay, well, that's cool. I don't think that that's actually going to fill, or if it does fill, they're going to clear me, but it's nice to have 4K behind me. By the way, what's leading today? Bitcoin is down 1% and oil is up 2%. Oh yeah, oil's having a great day. See silver. So even though the treasuries have kind of retraced here a bit, silver and gold still doing terrible. It's so funny. It's just so funny that we're getting this inflationary concerns, and what do? They sell gold and silver. But Bitcoin's not doing well either. So where's the money going? Huh? Copper. Basically, right? The copper is the true inflationary hedge, apparently. The metal more precious. How much did copper move? Copper's coming down here too, though. So they initially had a spike in copper. Now copper's coming back. So that might be more of a retracement. I don't know. President Biden received praise Wednesday night for closing line to his first address to a joint session of Congress, in which he said, "Thank you for your patience." Okay. Okay. So the E-mini being a little bit more churny, but it looks like they're trying to dig it out right here at 42 and 4205 or so. You can see kind of like the absorption down in this area. Up in here. That should be yellow. 4204. You can see it in the profile for sure, but you can see like there's a big print. There's a big print that they're doing right now. You can even see kind of the profile, so a little too late now, but not necessarily seeing signs that like there's a huge meta order sitting out there though. Okay, so that went about how I was worried would happen, was that, you know, even though I have a bunch of orders behind me, that they're going to pull. And when I get filled, they will clear, which they did. So that bit is actually absorbing a decent amount though, so. Yeah, I'm okay with it for now. Come on. If Tesla goes all red, maybe we panic. Are they below 700? They're trying it both ways now in the 10-year because they got 29 on me. That sucks. I really thought I was going to get that one. ZB is back at the low. It might be trying to trade into a spot where it's just a little bit too stop and go. Right? It's not really getting a consistent flood of volume in here. E-mini a couple of favorable ticks there, though. Okay, cool. That one worked. Oh, that's interesting. Well, good deal. That one was a little bit lucky. So I've been wondering, they're going to come back down onto this side. The issue is if they come back down onto this side, like, what are the chances that they decide to break again? Because the market has been kind of a little testy on that respect lately, right? That ZB wants new prices. I should have hit it. Well, see, like in this case, I think we should be selling that one right there because they're going to tick down. The 30 is dragging them. It's a bear steepener. Quite a nasty one at that. Seeing some dollar strength come in here now. Cool. Cool. So we had 3 work and 2 not work. But the first one I did a no on. See, there's another one at 06. With the way that this thing is headed, I wouldn't be surprised if we see 15 in the 10-year. Like, we just got to keep in mind, we are on a tell. It is very difficult for me to know how far this move is going to go. But here again, that's what's nice about this, what I'm calling arbitrage, is that when you're on arbitrage, you're not really vulnerable to the tells, right? Okay, the E-mini is breaking down there. That's kind of like what I was worried about, huh? It's not dramatic, though. Like, there's some pretty significant absorption against it almost every step there. Look at that. They had to sell through 1,000 contracts for all of the last 5 ticks. Well, that's incredibly interesting. So I'm noticing something a little different right there. I think that the treasuries are starting to see a little bit of risk off bid. Well, I had that one right, but I didn't get it. It's okay, I guess. So on that move there, right? ZB definitely hit a new low. ZN hit a new low by like a tick, but the 5-year didn't even come close. They were 3 ticks off from a new low. Okay. E-mini accelerating a little bit there on that latest push down. Where does that put us in the E-mini, relatively speaking? Okay, so yesterday's high was at 41.93. So this could just be gap fill. I think I should just leave my order there at 19.5. It was a good try. I think I'm going to cancel it because we're like so far away from it that if we come back down, I'm not sure that the position in the queue is enough for me to be like, oh yeah, we really, really want that. No. I mean, we could maybe try if it does come back, we could try taking it as she goes. Yeah, 06 nailed to the tick, right? It really, it really came back. Well, the thing was, though, I don't know if it had anything to do with the 06. I mean, let's be honest with ourselves, right? Like, fast price is not necessarily key, but we did identify a spot, and what happened is, like, as soon as it touched it, it was like the E-mini was falling apart. So I think we should just keep that part in mind, that there appears to be some amount of a bid coming in because of concern over what the indexes are doing. That was some serious delta down price. Yeah, it was. Do you know that was almost 10K? Looks like it was a 7K to get through that down area. So that is super. That is. Yeah, that is a ton of selling. That is a ton of market selling that pushed through there. The student loan payments would get a 401k match under the Democrats' plan. What? Wait, what? Zero Hedges comment says what? I'm like, what? That don't make much sense at all. Okay. That's not what we needed. Oh, we got news? Oh, you're right. Pending home sales. Okay. Scratch. Ta-da! Okay. My financial juice hasn't been doing what I want. Pending home sales one spawn 9% versus an estimated 5%, so it was less than expected. Wait, what? Flat. I screwed up there. Okay. E-mini all over the place at the moment. So right, they gave us the pending home sales month over month, but why am I not seeing the year over year number? We are seeing, oh, yeah, that's a good point too. The oil is, so gold and silver are just taking another further leg down, but oil is coming back a little bit. Oil's coming back a little bit. I'm seeing a little bit of a bounce in the 6J. Oops. Okay. I don't know. The flow here in the 10-year at the moment in this location is being a little toxic for me. Okay. Absorption. What the market here asks is sell in May back? It could be. It wouldn't surprise me at all. I feel like that we're overdue for some sort of a correction, right? It's just like everybody thinks that. Like, it was kind of funny to see all of the analysts go bearish and then go up to new highs, have the Federal Reserve meeting come out, and then a bunch of analysts were all bullish again after the Fed meeting. Like, okay, guys, like nothing happened. Changes your opinion that much, huh? Zero Hedge says pending home sales disappoint in March. Realtors blame low inventory again. Oh, I see. So it's not that the housing demand isn't there. It's that there's just not enough homes for us to sell. Gotcha. Oh, I'm so close. Come on. Hit me. Cool. Oh, I thought I got 2 right there. Well. Today's performance is a little iffy. Probably I've taken more than I should have, right? Like, it seems like there's some opportunities, but I haven't necessarily been identifying the correct locations. Pretty strong clear right there, too. I got lucky on that one. Lucky. Well, oil still seems to be declining. E-mini going in tandem with it. Bitcoin not having really moved much. Treasury complex does look like it's maybe balancing out. The ZB in particular has just become very, very quiet. ECB's lane talking. I don't know if that's why the E-mini just took a little dip there, but Justin, Moderna doubling COVID-19 vaccine. Well, it's from the Hill, so that's probably not Justin. So I'm liking this spot right here. Down tick in the treasuries there. The ZB is still kind of stuck around 11 though. So it seems things are flattening back out maybe? Oil pairing, it's declined slightly. Looks like gold and silver kind of bounced back a little bit, so they're no longer at the bottom of the list. So if I was going to make a play on inflation right now, right? And the big question is, will the inflation be transitory, right? So Powell thinks that these are like supply constraints and that it will, okay, so that looks like an informed move. Powell thinks that it's there will be pressures, but mostly because of supply constraints and so forth, right? So if you can make a play on inflation, normally you would go silver and gold, but silver and gold isn't directly affected by those supply constraints. So silver and gold only end up being a good play if Powell is wrong. Whereas other commodities that are directly affected by the supply constraints, like lumber and copper, go up in either scenario. It's just that if the second scenario happens, probably copper goes up even more, right? So is perhaps what we're seeing really that you're just not seeing Bitcoin, gold, and silver really becoming a proxy for dollar and weakness, inflation hedging, because it's going into lumber and copper. And like Freeport McMoran, the stock, it's been doing it pretty okay. That would be one proxy for us to look at, like relatively how much volume. Zero Hedge says Biden's lofty economic plan will be dead on arrival in the Senate. Yes, probably. Well, we're still kind of in this area where it's like, okay, so you got the reversion, the gap fill. Do they find support here? How you guys doing over here? Been quiet today. Yeah, we're doing okay. Make sure you hit the like button, guys. Got 11 likes right now. Really helps the videos out. No, another dip there, huh? Maybe I should have been trying to sell into this all, but I don't want to sell into it right into the previous day's high. It's too late for the short now. Doesn't necessarily mean I want to buy it here. Well, there's a pretty big amount of volume trading there, 41.92.50. Who would call me at this time of day? Probably spam. Oh, actually, that might be somebody I should talk to. Okay, we're back. Well, you're seeing a bit of a bid now in the treasuries. Seeing a bit of a bid coming down into the treasuries. And now they're coming through that kind of like previous high of day area. So it's not necessarily, they could potentially try and gap fill more to the close to like 85, 86 area. Unclear. It looks like they might have found a tiny bit of support right there. That one was kind of tempting, but I don't think that's, nope. So it's still being pretty toxic flow, wouldn't you say? What are we watching? We're watching the S&P 500 index futures, and we're watching the treasury futures. See, that looks like a temporary little bump right there. Okay. And the treasuries seem to be trading off of the E-mini quite a bit here now. Okay, yeah. Wow, look at the NASDAQ go. Okay. So, even though the E-mini traded down very aggressively, I'm seeing pretty healthy volume on both sides of the tape here in the E-mini. Yeah. So that was a pretty decent twist. I don't know if they're going to come up to my take profit, but so close. Okay. Hold on. Okay, cool. That one worked. Okay. I think that's done with. Well, my initial trade in the E-mini was an okay trade, but I did not get my target. So my nose is all drying up again, man. Yeah, it's just dry. It itches because it's dry. There's nothing in there. I know you wanted to hear about that, but Bitcoin has like not moved today. It's just sitting down there in the bottom of the list. Forex Live tweets positive risk sentiment fades. Is that what it is? I mean, I still see people buying the dip on this thing, right? Whether they make it out or not is a different question. Oh, we get natural gas stocks here? Okay. Okay. Ouch. Well, that break was a little suspicious, actually. Now, of course, they start getting stingy. You ever wonder, like, it seems like my order in particular seems to be affecting them, Look at that. Not going to fill me at 92.50, huh? Okay. Well, there you go. Barely made it. Okay, they're going for that low again. So now we're definitely in bear territory. Yeah. That one was no good.
Go take the girls. He's still asleep.
Baby's still asleep. Well, I'm still kind of weary about a short, but it's kind of starting to, you kind of have to start wondering, right? Well, did they retrace it? They happy with their retracement or not? There is some bidding coming into the 5-year in particular. Well, I'm not particularly liking that one. The 10-year is kind of holding back here for some reason. Yeah, I'm going to flat this. This is starting to look to me like more than just a gap retracement, you know? It's a hard call because, you know, the E-mini like seems to be overreacting all the time these days. Somebody hit into me with 1,000, but they didn't pull. Yeah. Maker says Delta is down 25K. That's like trend down type of day stuff. Yeah. The problem is I'm not sure if I can justify a short right here. I don't know, man. Did it tick up? Look away for a second. No, it did not. Yesterday I did pretty good on the trading this, but today I'm going to say nope. 1, 2 down. Well, let's come and look at what our options say. Hmm. Now, one of those E-mini trades was super, super close, so I can kind of chalk that up to luck. Maybe when it came back, I should have stretched it, but... But I digress. And then this over here, this is frustrating, right? Because I had the right call. It was just somebody decided to hit it through. Okay. Yeah, that's really good. Not enough to make me pull, but I liked that. Seth likes this. Somebody in chat's named the Federal Reserve. That's hilarious. State Department warns Americans to leave India as deaths surge. It's like a mass killing. Oh my gosh. Really? 600. You can't spare 600 there, huh? There we go. What is the dollar doing? Actually strengthening through this. Oops. Push the BB monitor over. Zero Hedge says 6.4 billion gamma at 4,200. But, oh. Kind of suggests, though, that if the selling doesn't stop here, that things could start to get really ugly in the indexes, because once you get that, get too far away from the gamma, they have to start selling it just to hedge it. Like that can really turn into a what do you call it? Feedback. You can get some real feedback going wild at that point, right? Okay. So once again, I get okay. That time it went through. It's been a little odd, don't you think? That I've had a little bit of trouble getting filled in some weird places today, haven't I? Hmm. By the way, we're in a nice spot here in the 10-year where we're like right at the VWAP. Kind of interesting. We're still haven't come back to like seller break even. That would be 24.5. Not sure what the probability of us drifting up there is. But it's not uncommon to see us come up. Like if they decide this is really just like the trend down, like we're just going to end up down on the day in bonds no matter what. And it's just going to be like crazy, right? But for now we're trending up. So if there's going to be like a bounce and then it goes down to lower, it's going to do it at 24.5, I think. Hmm. Hmm. Well, it was turning up, but that was very short-lived. Very short-lived. Maybe I guess they could do a higher low sort of a thing, but I don't know, man. That's like a super weak bounce, don't you think? That sucks that they went up to 2. I was only 331 in line. Didn't get to fill. Lame. What does HVL stand for? Could be hardware verification language or layer. No, no, that little push there doesn't look so good. Is it gonna go? Oh, I never got into here to check. Okay, VIX range estimates. Yeah, this is the first time in a while when we've gotten like a bad move, like down, and I wasn't down with it at all. Oh, shnikes. All right. You buy that one. Ba-dum. That was a pretty great stop run, guys. Oh, by the way, how's my robot doing? I haven't taken any trades? Really? That's not right. Yeah, it looks like it's working correctly. It's just they aren't taking it because of the book. Somebody in Discord was like, why aren't the bulls buying the dip? And I'm like, well, they are. They just keep getting overwhelmed. And then somebody else says, we are buying this. Like, oh, yes, of course. Of course. Oh, you know what? It would help if you could see my face. That was hilarious. I'm so mad that I got left back here. 331 in line. That's okay. Should have kept trying. I could have, well, it's okay. Probably I should nurse this thing over here, right? This one. Treasury is going to retrace that whole move down, eh? What do you think of that one, guys? What do you make of that one? What a day, huh? So I'm just noting that, so with the way that this all started, if we go back, the way this all started was there was a really strong move down in the treasuries, kind of like almost out of nowhere. And then we saw a bunch of guys like stop out down towards the bottom. And then we kind of rotated around a bit down there at the bottom. We've retraced since then. But that initial down move was like the precursor to everything. There was a down move, and after we saw the down move, we started to see moves in other assets. Copper was hitting all-time highs. We saw gold and silver start taking plunges off of that as the yields increased, etc., etc., etc. Then the E-mini started, and the E-mini was pretty much down from the well, there was a little bit of back and forth right at the open, but then it turned down, and it turned down pretty aggressively. Now, as the E-mini has turned down so aggressively, the treasuries have backed off. So If the treasuries have reverted, is everything else going to revert too? I don't know. But something that we are seeing right now is that liquidity in the E-mini is now starting to become slippery. Found this stream and I would love to see ladder trading. Well, you come to the right place. I'm not going to pretend like I'm always the great trader and that like you're going to learn everything from me, but I'm pretty much the only one out there that's actually showing you a DOM. So today I'm being hard on myself because today hasn't been the greatest day, has it? I'm mad. Like there's been opportunities in the treasury, and I'm a little mad that I haven't really gotten as much out of it as I should. You know, had a couple of boo-boos in there. Well, I did get my first target in ES, but I decided to try and let it run. Given that we just had 2 slips right in there, we may get stuck here for a little bit. Yeah, very unexpected day. Yeah, well, I mean, I'm sure it has something to do with a lot of pent up, people waiting for the Federal Reserve to be done, So it's like, okay, let's not do anything until after the Fed meeting. And then the Fed meeting comes and nothing changes. So then they come back and it's like, well, now what are we going to do? And then it has to move some way or something like that, But unexpected, yeah, it's a tail. It's a tail day. Can we call them that? Tail days. I wouldn't say that it was a fat tail day so much, but it's a tail day, right? This is a pretty strong down day that was quite extreme. But if you heard that noise earlier, that noise is saying that the E-mini futures are pulling orders. So it is clearing prices without any trades going on at that spot, which means that like all of the bids or offers just completely pulled. It does look like it was offers that were pulled, but let's see how big of a gap was it? Oh my. Happened multiple spots, in fact, on both of those. Both of those gave four gaps. Holy crap. Holy crapola. Earnings look good at first from banks. You tell day for day. It's the herd theory. Yeah, I don't even know if it's the herd so much. Frontier. Yeah. I think that part of what's going on here, you mentioned some of the earnings look good. Like Apple was really good. Well, let's go and look at the earnings. Let's go and look at the earnings calendar. Who do we have today? Earnings calendar at marketchameleon.com is what I'm using. We haven't done Amazon yet? I thought we had already done Amazon. Okay, so we have Amazon today. So that could be one. How is Amazon doing? I'm too lazy to pull up my stock charts to go and look. Here, I'll load it in TradingView. It'll be a little delayed, but the stock. Okay, Amazon is down today. It's not like it's about in line with the indexes. So there could be maybe some bearishness on trying to play Amazon earnings. What else we get? MasterCard, Comcast, McDonald's, Bristol Myers, Caterpillar. So Caterpillar ain't not such a. Wait, were they before? Yeah, they were before the bar. So all of these guys already reported. Except for Amazon. So who's else is afterwards? Atlassian. Oh boy. And Twitter. Aha. Okay, so maybe it could be some earnings, right? But, I think it kind of comes through. It's like there's all this play on earnings, right? some companies have done well and some companies haven't. So like you come in and you get the companies that do well and like they take their profits off of that. It seems like there is kind of a judgment being made that like right now is as good as it's going to get. Like they're pricing in like the full growth, and then after that the growth is going to trail off, and so like some profit taking off of that. And like we're already kind of overvalued anyways, or at least from every measure. Every fundamental measure that fundamental traders kind of look at, we're overvalued. So it would make sense that we come back, and when you get all of these options going on and everything, so we're not to the point where they're like really like falling out of bed yet. Like right now we're in a spot where you would normally expect to see a bounce. Like say it's a day, it goes down and then it bounces a little bit, but it still ends up being a down day. Like that first standard deviation that we bounced off of is about the right spot. That makes me a little nervous still, just because the cumulative delta on the way down was just so extreme, right? But I think the concern going forward is like there is tons of options gamma up at 4,200. So if they don't recover this today, if they don't recover this today, you could get a really ugly feedback cycle going on as all of the market makers have to sell the stocks, because the way that, because they're all positioned long, essentially. Like their risk is all long. Oh man, it's kind of hard to describe the options, right? But so many people own calls for it to go to 4,200 that if it, that they all own the underlying stocks to hedge their positions being short those calls. So if it starts going down, then they start losing money on the stocks. They're going to have to sell them. But, it would have to get beyond a certain point. And I think that here at this point, like 4160 is kind of about the spot where it starts to become like, whoa, hold up, that's not right. And things could like really fall apart, For now, that this seems like an okay spot to do a reversal. We'll see if they come above this pivot. 4188. I don't mention that pivot. You got to make sure. I'm trying to talk to Frontier here specifically because he's new. Because my big thing is you got to be careful about past prices and everything being significant. They're not really very predictive. But that 88 is going to be like a key benchmark if they get a higher high. Doesn't mean that after we get above that we have a higher probability of moving up. But it's just that's where people are going to be looking. You've scalped 3 points? Oh, so wait, what do you scalp it on? Do you scalp on some treasuries if you're only 3 points? You might mean the E-mini. So I'm green and I'll just watch the whole day to see. Yeah. Well, I always say, like we're talking about tail risk today, because today is really a tail risk kind of a day. The real way to play one of these is to just be short, to know that it's going to go down, be short at the very beginning, take your profit, and then just sit back and watch, right? This one was a little bit out of nowhere, though, so that one's a little hard. If you caught this thing from the whole way down, like if you were short above 4,200, good job. I would prefer not to know what other traders are doing, to be honest with you, Jamie. Not that I have anything against the guy. If he ever wants to chat, I would love to talk to him. I don't know if he would really want to talk to me. I'm kind of an asshole. But he seems like a great guy, though. But sometimes he does well and sometimes he doesn't do well, and don't really want to talk about other traders. So he needs to fix his risk management. I don't know. But what did we learn today, right? the tail risk, like the taking on the risk, is where the edge comes from. Really important to have like a daily loss limit sort of a thing. Yeah, minus 3K to make 300 to 400. Yeah, but it's the risk premium. The bigger question is, how do you handle the tail risks, right? 2 green candles on a 5-minute? Yeah. Well, like I was saying, at Frontier, every piece of empirical evidence that I have ever looked at suggests that past price is very ineffective at predicting future price movements. So I'm not saying that it's useless. It's not useless at all, especially when it comes to managing your risk. These sorts of things do matter, right? Like if we're managing our risk and we're going long, right? What the low of the day matters. What the last pivot was matters. Like if we can come above this last pivot, I think that we would need to probably do more than just break it. But, when you look at the way that the volume was and everything else like that, you might get some pretty good sweeps up through here, right? So from a risk reward perspective, long looks pretty great at the moment, right? But 2 green candles, does that mean that we're more likely to move up than we are to move down? I don't think that kind of information can tell us that. And if anybody has evidence that it can, I would love to see it. But I've never been able to find a purely technical edge. That is, like, you're only looking at market data. I've never been able to find an edge based purely on market data that, given an equal risk reward, has a probability of higher than 55%. And the ones that I have found that have 55%, that's not the whole story, because there's still drawdowns and things like that. So, but the thing that I'm trading off of, well, one thing is, I don't know, sometimes I just kind of feel like it's going to go up. I think that probably there's a lot of luck to that, right? But what I am trading off of is that we bounced off of a VIX level, right? We got to the spot where, like, the options traders are like start to get screwed, and they stopped right there. They didn't go any further. Well, actually, I kind of take that back there a little bit. What was the level specifically was 84, so they went through a little bit. Could close green. It actually literally could. Well, and then the other thing is, and here's where my thing comes from. Here's where my edges come from, is I'm always trying to find an informational edge, right? There's hierarchies of data, right? A price that happened 5 minutes ago is not as important as a price that happened now. But what can you do with the price that happened now, other than compare it to the past price and make some sort of determination based off of that? But what we can do is we can look at other current prices on things that are related, right? So what are we seeing today? Well, for starters, when we came in, everything was kind of like just flat, except for oil. Oil was up big. Now, oil came back pretty hard, but its oil is still up 1.73%. It was up like 2.25% at one point, right? So oil came back a little bit. Then we saw the treasuries took a big, fast dive out of nowhere that really surprised me. It really surprised me. After that happened, well, as that happened, we did see a dip in the 6J, so a little bit in the currencies, but then we started to see like all of the related instruments to the treasury start, move in tandem with it. Gold got killed, silver got killed, and we were seeing copper hit its highs at that time, right? So some people, like we were looking on Twitter, some people were saying that maybe that's some sort of inflationary play, which makes sense. It seems to me that if you're going to make an inflationary play, that the play is copper and timber, and not silver and gold, because the inflationary play is that there will be supply bottlenecks, but that it will be transitory. But if it's not transitory, then you get some real inflation. Well, if you're in copper, you win either way. Whereas if you're in gold and silver, it's binary. So that's why we think maybe that the move that we saw was some sort of inflationary spark, that maybe the Federal Reserve will have to increase rates at some point, right? Okay, so that happened first. Then we kind of started to see other things happen, like oil came back pretty hard, and then the E-mini started selling back. So with all of that in mind, and taking into account that we haven't actually had a real breaking piece of news as a clear impetus, at this moment this news was released and they started moving, so it must have been that news, right? Then we kind of have to ask, okay, if it was this move that started in treasuries that kind of triggered everything, if the move has completely retraced in treasuries, then why wouldn't it later completely retrace in the other instruments, right? So that's kind of what's going through my head right now. So it seems like. So I'm not trying to say you should trade like me and this is the way that you trade. That's what I'm thinking right now. Harry Cole says, here there is a bit of a narrative busting poll coming down the tracks conducted in the last couple of days from a proper pollster. Live Squawk retweeted that. There are comments on this. Let's see. I don't know who that is. When I read the comments, I don't understand what they're talking about. Who is Harry Cole? Political editor of The Sun. I see. So it's UK, maybe that's why it doesn't make sense to me. Maybe big institutional investors want to check some levels, maybe? I don't know. The thing is I'm not sure if they really think about it that way. How do I say this? So when I'm thinking about the different kinds of players, so first of all, if we're talking about a exploratory or a speculative move, let's put it that way. From my time in the industry, so I worked for one of the big banks. The bank doesn't speculate. They avoid speculation, basically, as far as I saw. They were trying to make money off of helping other people speculate, basically. Okay. These high frequency trading firms, these arbitrage firms, they kind of don't speculate either, right? So if we're seeing some sort of speculation, I want to push price down and see where we go, sort of a thing, you got to be talking about a hedge fund, right? Okay, well, if you're a proper hedge fund, a lot of them just have strategies set up, like your long short strategy, right? There's a couple of different categories of hedge fund strategies. But if you really understand market microstructure and everything like that, you realize you can't just come in and say, I want to see us move down to here, and then you trade enough volume that it gets going, and then, you get your market impact moves the market, and then you get out. That doesn't work, essentially. So hedge funds kind of know better, generally speaking. And they might move something down because they have reason to believe that people will stop out, and that those other people, they can make money off of those other people. But more often than not, I believe, at least, and I'm not saying I can prove this, but my understanding is that more often than not, the hedge funds, oh man, I like talked way over. More often than not, the hedge funds want to be trading off of some sort of informational advantage, right? So I don't know if they actively test it like that, but I think probably a better explanation for this is just kind of with the options and the way that everything kind of happened with the Federal Reserve and the positions that people had and everything, that you kind of got some things unwinding and some pent up, volatility kind of exploding out here. And it may be that there's really actually nothing to this move, and it was just like the volatility exploding and now it's all okay. I don't know. Oh boy. Well, I've gone over basically. I should be getting going. Anyways, it's time for me to go, guys. So what should we call today? Tail risk. I want to put something in there. Tail risk. Yeah, it was very helpful. Thanks. Cool. Well, I'm glad it was useful. So, guys, I got to get going. I'm over my time, but I'll be back tomorrow. We got some numbers tomorrow to trade. Hopefully, we do a little better. I would say that my E-mini trading wasn't terrible, but maybe if I was only focusing on the E-mini, I might have made some money. But over here in the Treasury, it was down a couple of ticks. So. Was not performing the way that I should in the Treasury today. So, but this one is, we're still practicing. So that's okay. I think I learned a few things. So see you guys tomorrow. In the meantime, stay profitable, friends.